Good morning, sports fans. You're listening to 96.9 FM WHYR LP, Baton Rouge Community Radio.
This is Eric Hatfield along with Coach Perry Daniels, and we are here to bring you the latest, the greatest, the best, and the most entertaining in high school, college, and professional sports. You are listening to Louisiana All-American Sports. Good morning, Baton Rouge. It's the first Saturday in April the 5th, 2014, and you are listening to Louisiana All-American Sports on WHYR LP, Baton Rouge Community Radio 96.9 FM. This is Eric Hatfield.
And I'm Coach Perry Daniels.
We've got a lot of stuff going on in the sports world today. Of course, big weekend in the world of college basketball as we have the Final Four starting this evening. Two really compelling matchups, which will bring a conclusion to what's been a fantastic tournament. By the way, area code 225-343-9927, 225-343-9927. We have open lines pretty much all day today. Really briefly, we're going to launch in real quick with some high school baseball action. Just to let you know which schools in the Baton Rouge area are standing out. In Class 5A, we have... for our power rankings, Live Oak ranked number 6, Zachary ranked number 7 with a 16-7 record. Santa Ma 16-6, they're ranked number 8. Denham Springs number 9 in Louisiana in Class 5A, and Baton Rouge, Catholic High School ranked number 10. So we have a big chunk of Baton Rouge schools pretty much taking up the lower half of the top 10 in Class 5A. So
that's a tough 5A district. I heard Denham Springs, Catholic High, and I heard one other.
Santa Ma and Zachary and Live Oak.
Well, Zachary's in the other.
Right, no, yeah, right. Yeah, Santa Ma, 5A, correct.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a tough district. That is a talented district. Catholic High has a couple of players who will probably be playing on the college ranks, some guys who are really making headlines. So there is a lot of activity going on, some really good baseball. If you're really old school and love the high school baseball game, especially when it's a cool afternoon and have the time, go out and check out some of these schools.
Right.
Class 4A teams that we have ranked in the power rankings, not quite as strong as in Class 5A. We have, actually, as I'm scanning over the top 25, I don't see a single Baton Rouge school in 4A, so we're just going to mosey on to class.
That's not surprising in the Baton Rouge area when you think about the 4A schools. I don't even think they play baseball anymore. Bel Air doesn't.
Right. You have your Taras and schools of that caliber.
Tara still plays, though. But who else do we have in the area? Lutcher does a very good job of it.
Right.
And they should be on there.
They're probably in the.
Just
I only printed the top 25. Okay. Right. They're probably right there. Yeah. But you're right. There's not a lot of 4A activity. St. Michael. That wouldn't surprise me. I didn't see them, but I know they have a viable, baseball program. But interestingly, right up the road in Lafayette, St. Thomas More. Number one in Class 4A. They have a very good team. They have a really. I wish
entire athletic department, Eric. They were right up there in basketball.
Right.
They're always right up there in football.
Right, and I wish I had written down this kid's name because they have a senior who's in the top 50 in Baseball America recruits. I wish I knew the young man's name, but he might be going straight to the pros if he wanted to. So St. Thomas More right there in Lafayette doing a great job. In Class 3A, we have Bruley at number 6.
Wow, our good friends over at Bruley.
Yeah, so look at West Baton Rouge, making things happen. U High, number 10 in Class 3A. Parkview Baptist, we're seeing a lot of patterns in Class District 7-3A. Parkview Baptist, number 12 in the state.
7-3A's been tough all year. Football, basketball, now baseball.
Right. Baker, number 16 in Class 3A. West Feliciana, number 19. Wow. So we have some talent in Class 3A.
That's almost just like the basketball.
It really is. I mean, it's. I mean, I'll bet you those are probably some gritty rivalries among those kids, man. Right. I bet you it's probably fun to be around.
Right.
Class 2A. I remember giving this a once over, not a whole heck of a lot. Dunham, number 17 in Class 2A baseball. St. Thomas Aquinas, number 20. Not a whole lot of excitement in. Oh, I'm sorry, Redemptorist, number 2 in the state. I stand
That
corrected.
is exciting because
Yeah.
they haven't been anything in anything else.
Yep, Class 2. Yeah, no, they have vanished off the scene. I mean, they used to be a regular mentionable in football.
Well, the football program's coming back. They had a first year head coach. He was not his first year overall. He comes from Donaldsonville, but they're building that football program.
Redemptorist, number 2 in the state with a 14-5 record in District 6 2A. Don't have the 1As in front of me, but that wraps it up. So we have some talent in Baton Rouge High School baseball. 3A in particular really caught my attention. I mean, those are some big rivalries.
3A and 5A.
And 5A, right. You know, those are rivals. The 5A, you had that top 10, and you had those New Orleans schools, Jesuit, Brother Martin, they're always cranking out kids at the top. But the lower half of that top 10 was all Baton Rouge area schools. So we've got some talented kids. We have some talented athletes in Baton Rouge.
And you know what, man? We don't give the girls a whole lot of attention, but when you look at the softball rankings, they're very similar with some of the same schools.
I believe it. I mean, we really don't, and we, they definitely, the women deserve as much attention as the guys do, at least at the amateur level, and
if
big props.
If we had more time, man, that's the solution. We need more time on the air, then we can cover the women as well.
I totally agree. Definitely a little more time. Hint, hint, hint to the power brokers out there at WHYR LP. I can just see Alexander Perlis, the station manager, squirming right now. Anyway, enough of putting that man on the hot spot. So look, let's get into the big boys, as it's Saturday afternoon, and we have some major league action going on in the world of college basketball. The Final Four. The stage is set in Arlington, Texas, in Jera World, as we have Final Four action taking place this afternoon. Well, let's start with the big boy, number 1 Florida, playing the, I guess, upstart and really overachieving Connecticut Huskies. I mean, I'd said I wasn't surprised that Connecticut advanced to the Sweet 16 just because of the way the pairings came up. Yeah. I did not expect them to go much farther. I really thought they were kind of just an above-average kind of underwhelming team, kind of a one-man show with Shabazz Napier, but stars like Shabazz Napier have a way of bringing their team up, and that's exactly what he's done in the last couple of games. I was really impressed with his performance in the regional semi and regional finals. I didn't think UConn would be here, but now they're like Missouri. They've shown me.
Well, I don't know if it's fair to compare them to Missouri when you're talking basketball. As bad as Missouri.
No. I mean, like the show me.
I understand. But, you know what, Eric? I think we have to give kudos to the job that the coach,
Kevin Ollie, who came in right behind a legend in Jim Calhoun.
And I mean, just think about what he inherited. Last year, this team was ineligible for the tournament.
Which is why, probably why Coach Calhoun threw up the deuces.
Right. Because similar to Dr. Broussard saying, the NCAA has overly punitive consequences.
Right. When you miss that APR, they don't play with you. And Connecticut had a little funny business going on there. I mean, look, a lot of good programs are going to have some stuff that's right on that periphery, of regulations.
And you hope that it's rooted in the right place.
Right.
You hope that they're looking at it and saying, okay, all this person needs is an opportunity, a chance, and we're gonna bend some rules to extend the opportunity to them. Right. So hopefully that's the case.
And play basketball and help us bring in our $12 million of revenue in Connecticut. But yes, I agree.
So, but back to today's matter at hand. UConn is a really good team, and Napier has done a fantastic job.
He sure
had a great
has.
tournament. You posed the question earlier in the show, at the beginning of the show. You made the statement that this has been an unbelievable tournament.
It has been. It's been fantastic.
So I want to propose a question to you. Has the one and done rule hurt college basketball?
On the whole, I am going to say yes, but this is why. On the whole, you have two parts of the college basketball season. You have the NCAA tournament, and then you have the regular season. I think the NCAA tournament, I think no matter what you do, the way that it has been promoted over the decades and over the years, and you have office pools and the coverage, and CBS has been outstanding over the last 30 years in bringing this to us. I think the March Madness is always going to draw people's attention. And then when you have a good tournament like this, it's going to boost viewer attention. But the regular season is where I think the one-and-done rule is hurted. I mean, I remember back in my day when I was younger, you knew some of these stars because you saw them throughout the regular season. They were making highlights. They were making news. This year was a pretty good year, but it was your freshman stars that pushed it up. Now, I think ESPN, who's kind of the regular season 800-pound gorilla of delivering college basketball in the regular season, I think ESPN did a really good job of talking those conferences into front-loading the freshman superstars, Kansas, Duke, Kentucky, getting them to play out-of-conference games against one another early in the season, and they stimulated some interest.
So you're insinuating that there was a corporate hand in the...
I'm not insinuating. I'm flat out saying that the hand of the corporation was there, and I think it was a good thing for all involved. I think it got the interest of the people who might have been on the borderline, kind of got them to the forefront, kind of put NCAA basketball in the frame of mind earlier in the season, and I think helped. But yeah, when you have guys, I mean, Julius Randle's gone. Andrew Wiggins already announced he was leaving. Jabari Parker, I'm sure, is going to go to the pros after this year. And a lot of your superstars are going to, those are the big three, but a lot of your freshman stars are going to go after this year. And so, yeah, I mean, I think not having those guys back for a second year it's not going to be as good for college basketball. If those three guys are back next year, you have even more hype and more excitement. And then they're going to meet up in the tournament again, and the rivalry's building and stuff like that. So yeah, I do think it's taken away from college basketball's ability to market itself sustainably. But the one and done rule is a rule of the NBA, and their interest is the NBA.
Well, right, but the game itself, your synopsis there of the state of college basketball, to me, it is more for the layman viewer. We want to know these guys. We want to feel comfortable with them. So because we're not basketball enthusiasts,
right,
and we can't watch the 3 or 4 games a week that each school plays,
sure,
then we don't have time to become familiar with them.
That sums it up rather nicely, and that's really when you're looking at marketing of any sport. I mean, you have people like us that are on the air talking about this every week. Well, we're going to watch and know what's going on, if anything, because it's our job, and also obviously because it's our interest.
Right.
But it's that casual fan that moves the needle in any sport. Your diehards aren't going anywhere.
Which makes the NFL so dominant in our society, because they only play once a week, and I can tune in on Sunday and I can watch them, I learn them, I know them.
Right.
I'm going to see them at least 8 times, my home team.
Right.
I'm going to see them in a meaningful game at least 8 times a year.
And it's water cooler discussion,
Right.
And then you have the NBA, which takes those personalities and really puts them in your living room. The in-stadium experience, they always keep it exciting with the music and stuff like that.
Right.
That's how they draw the women and children. They really do a good job of drawing the in-game experience there.
Right.
They know how to market to that casual fan. Major League Baseball has been abysmal at it, but they have such a base, and you have a lot of kids playing. It's Major League Baseball. I mean, they have legions and corporate money, so they don't feel the pinch, and probably won't for a few years till that older base starts dying off.
Right, and it's a dying breed.
It is. It really is. It's something I talked about earlier this week with a couple of folks on social media. It's really frustrating, and I'm digressing. We'll get back to it soon. We'll get back to the Final Four soon. But during the Bud Selig era, with the 2 exceptions, that's the expansion of the playoffs, once in the mid-'90s, and then once a couple of years ago, and then with instant replay. Other than that, I think Bud Selig has done nothing but root the game in the dinosaur years, and they've failed to really reach out to the swaths of younger casual fans who are losing. And they're going to lose market share certainly to basketball, obviously the NFL, and even soccer. And your under 18 crowd has got a lot of momentum. So baseball's got. This is a mean thing to say, but thank God Bud Selig is gone after this year. I would start a grassroots campaign to make Mark Cuban the commissioner of baseball if I could.
I'm not sure that it was just totally Selig. I think there's a contingency of baseball, what they call purists, that prevent progress. I see the same thing in our great city of New Orleans.
Right.
The historic restoration district doesn't want to touch these old buildings.
That's true, but there's a big but. People, New Orleans is a destination city in part because of that. I mean, that brings money to the town.
Way off of the Final Four.
You're right. We got, man, we've gotten on the bridges and interstates. I'm sorry, folks. See, this is how conversations get lanes and avenues. Let's dial it back, and we are going to talk about instant replay in the purest later today, should time allows.
I'm glad of that. So here's where I am. UConn has done a fantastic job. I think Florida has the best defense in the country, and they can put their defense translates into easy baskets for their offense, and I think that will be a little too much for UConn.
I agree. And Florida, as they've demonstrated, they can put the ball in the hole when they want to. You have just studs on Florida defensively. You have Scotty Wilbekin, who's going to be on Shabazz Napier like white on rice. You have Patrick Young, who is just a monster in the post, defensively and offensively. You have Casey Prather, who can put the ball in the hole. I mean, obviously he's more of a post player, but he can shoot the J from 15, 16, 17 feet. I don't know how Connecticut keeps up with all that. I just don't.
Right. And that I don't think there's enough, what a lot of coaches like to say, enough bullets in their gun.
That's an excellent choice of words. 225-343-9927, area code 225-343-9927 if you would like to get in on the conversation here on the Louisiana All-American Sports Radio Show. Now, the game I I tell you, I don't have a read on one way or the other. Is the one that's going to be, I believe this is the later game. That's the Wisconsin Badgers and the Kentucky Wildcats. I'm actually got to go to a wedding this evening, so I'm going to have my smartphone really in my lap. I'm watching every second of this. Oh yeah, the NCAA March Madness app on the Android is the bomb. If you had to work during the day and you were at the office for the first couple of rounds, you could see everything. If you're going to a wedding and fulfilling an obligation to your friends and family, which is what's supposed to come first, hey, you can still take the tournament with you. Good application there.
And similar to LouisianaAllAmericanSports.com, it's free of charge.
That's absolutely correct. Good plug there, Perry. We have the Wisconsin Badgers and the Kentucky Wildcats. I know the Fixer's not calling in today, but I'd imagine, I have not looked at the odds, but I'm sure Kentucky's favored, even though they're the 8th seed, and Wisconsin's the 2 seed. Here's my thing. If I had to bet money, which I don't do, I would put it on Kentucky only because I've seen Kentucky's had a steady progression. They're moving in one direction at a steady pace. Wisconsin, they had that dip in the middle of the year, and they've had some close shaves during the tournament. I just don't know what to expect. Frank Kaminsky has stepped his game up for Wisconsin. I mean, he's been a standout all year, but he's put the team on his back. Sam Decker, who was kind of your backcourt leader, who was scoring more of the points. I mean, Wisconsin's more of a defensive-oriented team, but he was scoring more of the points. He's kind of blended into the middle, kind of faded a little bit. I just don't know what to expect. When Bo Ryan's team is playing up, they could beat anybody, but I just think Coach Cal has his team ready to take that step. I'm seeing the progression of a Kentucky team ready to take that next step towards a championship.
Yeah, this is a really, really good Wisconsin basketball.
They are. And we talked about it earlier in the year. I sold my stock.
Right, yes you did. and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Because at times they looked horrible.
Well, you lose 5 of 6 and you have the likes of Minnesota mixed in there and a couple other not so great teams. It makes you kind of scratch your head and say, well, this is supposed to be a championship, a top 10 team?
Right. And you just think, though, what you've seen, both of these teams, both of them are schizophrenic.
They are. They have had 10. I mean, Kentucky's done things that make you go, but they've done it in the regular season.
Right.
When that SEC tournament started, you can see the progression. They made it to the championship game. They had to bow down to Florida, and I'm just going to jump ahead. I think that's what's going to ultimately happen in the NCAA tournament, but I digress. But then they came to the big dance in the bracket of death, the bracket with Louisville, Wichita State, Michigan, and Duke, right? Oh, well, yeah, that's right, the bracket of death. That's right, and they withstood all of that and were able to advance. So they've been. We talk about battle tested all the time. You don't go through the ringer more than they do. And then they came out, they played Louisville, and Coach Moore mentioned they might have left everything out on the floor. Well,
Right.
clearly not, because they came out and outlasted Michigan with Aaron Harrison nailing the last-second three-point shot. So, John Beilein is a heck of a coach for Michigan. He had a scheme that was designed to take away their weapons, take away Julius Randle, and Kentucky just kept loading. And who was that kid we never heard of? Marcus Lee, for they had somebody come off the bench for Kentucky. He hadn't played a minute all year long, and came out and put some points on the board real quick.
I'm not sure.
Coach Cal just has those bullets in his gun.
Well, again, this is a really talented team, and that's what I think is going to take place this evening. That talent is going to outlast the fundamentals of Wisconsin basketball.
Yeah, I agree.
Well-coached, fundamental team. It's just that this Kentucky team is just too talented
I
for
agree.
them, which is going to make for a great matchup Monday night.
Yeah. All SEC matchup, too.
The rest of the country's got to be hating.
Oh, they got to be, especially in basketball, because you thought, well, this is the one place where we got them. I mean,
Right.
it's because baseball, SEC dominates. I mean, we beat each other up in baseball and in football all the time. They're figuring, well, basketball, they're down this year, but the cream of the top dominated everybody else.
Everybody else. I mean, when you think of Florida, Alabama, I'm going to throw in Louisiana because, in football, we contend for national titles.
That's right.
So, when you
and
look
baseball,
at those three
not
states,
lately, but
and baseball,
right.
When you look at those three states, those are the bulk of your national titles.
Right. Oh, yeah.
across the sports.
I could see the rest of the country if it was like a little comic book or a cartoon. Just, how the villain, when he gets thwarted, he's like, "Curse you, you meddling kids!" It's like the SEC just rolls up again, in spite of having your South Carolinas and your Georgias, and, well, not Georgia, I don't want to hit on them, but, teams that were really down this year.
Yeah.
And, they still rose to the top.
Still rise to the top. We talked all season about how bad the SEC was.
Yeah.
We were trying to crown the ACC as the basketball conference, but hey, where are they now?
Right, they're not even represented in the Final Four. It was the Big Ten.
The Big Ten,
which has 12 teams.
Right, the Big Ten. You do have Wisconsin that is last.
Right, and you have the American, which was the old Big East. That shouldn't surprise anybody, considering their origins. But ACC, with all the potential they demonstrated, poof, nothing from them to be heard. So
I've got Kentucky tonight,
right,
and I've got Florida to win it all.
And yeah, I agree with you. I think Florida's just too. I mean, I think Kentucky is going to hit that wall when they play Florida. Now, I do think it's going to be much more competitive than the regular season contests and then the SEC championship game, because I do see a development. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger really in life, but especially in sports. And Kentucky has run that gauntlet, so I do think they're going to put it to Florida. But Billy Donovan he's like a chess master. His chessboard already has his knights and his rooks and bishops already closing in on the king right there. So Coach Cal, if anybody can outdo Billy Donovan, if anyone can knock him off his horse, I think it is Coach Cal, although ironically Bo Ryan did beat him earlier this year, and so did Kevin Ollie of Connecticut. Those are the two blemishes on Florida's record. But nonetheless, I think this Florida just hasn't. When Wilbekin came back from that suspension and then he got into the tournament and you just saw him pick that team up, I just think Florida has the destiny on their side. I think they're too much.
Well, and I kind of question my choice. I'm staying with Florida because I originally chose Florida at the beginning of the tournament. But if Kentucky wins today, you've got to think that they are a team of destiny
themselves.
Yeah. To say that they've come through. Forget who they played in the first round, but then they beat an undefeated Wichita State team.
Right.
Then they beat an intrastate rival Louisville team.
Right.
And then they beat a very solid Michigan team.
Right, the national runner-up.
Right. So they really would look like a team of destiny if they beat Wisconsin tonight. So that would be a really interesting conference matchup Monday night.
Right. That's going to be if Florida wins either dynamic, obviously the SEC versus SEC would be the best, but Florida versus Wisconsin or Kentucky is going to be compelling. UConn, I think, would shave a few ratings points off. Not that UConn's a national basketball brand, there's no getting around that, but they kind of came out of the shadows.
Right. But you would get those very important East Coast television.
That's true. Yeah, that tri-state area. Yes, sir. I totally agree. agree. So, look, we're going to take, I guess, a brief 90-second intermission. We have, on the other side, I told you so, we also are going to have a woman's perspective, some perspective from the ladies here on Louisiana All-American Sports. NBA is ramping up towards an exciting conclusion as we're going to have some pre-playoff talk. You're really watching those stories develop in both conferences. LSU baseball, some discussion there. Our 20th ranked Tigers, you know, they're a little up and down themselves. They've got to pick it up in the SEC, but they had one heck of a performance last night. They have a real gem in Aaron Nola, who spun a gem last night. We'll talk about that briefly. Always NFL news. That's 365 days a year. Got to talk about DeSean Jackson, who was recently waived by the Philadelphia Eagles amid some controversy, signed with the Washington Redskins. And, of course, we got a little bit of talk on Southern University baseball and what's going on with them this year, so don't go anywhere. You're listening to Louisiana All-American Sports on 96.9 FM WHYR Baton Rouge Community Radio, 225-343-9927, 225-343-9927 to discuss it with us. Perfect. Jam on it. Jam on it. Jam on it. Oh, yeah. Bringing in some old school classics. Nothing like a little nucleus. And, well, you know, we like to keep it real. It's a music station, of course. It's a radio station, rather. So, of course, we like to play a little bit of music. But right now, we have a regular friend of the show on the line. And when you hear this bump, this ought to give you a clue. Nonetheless, we have...
we've got our friend of the show. We're going to do the top 5 things that have been on a female's mind while watching sports this past week. Are you ready, caller?
I am.
All right. Well, let's start off. Number 5.
One and done. Succeed and proceed. Call it what you want to, but good thing for Tiger fans that the players at Kentucky only play college ball for 1 year. We might win a championship next year.
Number 4.
That was number 5.
That was number 5. Number 4.
I wonder if the Eagles would have re-signed DeSean Jackson if he would have been caught on video at a rap concert yelling, "I'll kick every white boy's butt in here."
Number 3.
Good thing that in the Final Four, they play 2 halves, usually. When we watch games played in Jerry's world, we have to watch a whole lot of fourth-quarter turnovers.
Number 2.
What's gotten into those young boys in Kentucky? Is this the same team that lost to LSU?
And the number 1 thing that was on a woman's mind while watching sports this past week was...
Wichita State still has the best record in college basketball, 35-1. They only lost by 2 points. Can they get a retry? They deserve to play today in Dallas. We can call it the Fantastic Five.
Thank you.
The Final Four, the Fantastic Five, baby.
Thank you, caller, for the top 5 things that were on a female's mind while watching sports this past week.
Thank you.
They want to know.
anyway, thank you so much for letting us know the top 5 things on a woman's mind while watching sports. That is something else. Yeah, what'd you say, the Fantastic Five? Oh, man. Yeah, that's you know, they can have like a play-in game. You could take like a team like Connecticut, they were the lowest seed, and they could play Wisconsin, and that winner gets to go into the Final Four. All kinds of ways you can handle or manage.
15.
Right, exactly. So,
That is kind of sad, though, man.
Yeah. You know, you would go 35-0, and then
one loss,
it's
and you're
over.
done.
It's over. You know, but you know, it's Kentucky that stepped it up to the forefront and handled its business. So. You know, and by the way, if you really had to have your fill of Eve, you'll definitely be able to hear her on the YouTube upload. I'll get that right. Usually, making sure that your mute button isn't on is usually key to letting people hear the music. That's my bad, folks. Alrighty. So, anyway, we have still a whole lot of action going on today. While we're talking about predictions and ways things could have and would have and should have been done, you know what time it is as you get ready to hear our regular segment, I Told You So. If you like to get in on the conversation, by the way, and tell one of us I told you so, the telephone number is, as always, area code 225-343-9927, area code 225-343-9927, as we get ready to tell you I told you so.
I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? 'Cause I told you. And when did I tell you? A long time ago. And what did I say will happen when I told you? Exactly what just happened.
Wisconsin against Arizona. That is going to be a 1 versus 2. Where do you see that going?
I believe Wisconsin's going to pull it out.
So Florida and Dayton, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you think that Dayton's Cinderella run ends here?
Well, because I chose, at the beginning of the tournament, I chose Florida to win it all.
Right.
So I'm going to stick with that. And now you have to take on the Michigan Wolverines. What are your thoughts there?
Coach Cal is a great coach. I mean, the players are amazing. So I feel like we could do it.
Michigan and Kentucky.
Well, man, I tell you what, after Kentucky did what they did last night, it's kind of tough to pick against those guys.
Tom Izzo going up against bringing his Spartans and those seniors, Adrian Payne, Keith Appling, they've come so close in the past, they've been denied, and now you have a sophomore in Gary Harris who can score and who can shoot. I personally think that pushes Michigan State over the hump into the Final Four and possibly into a national championship. What's your read on that, Michigan State and Connecticut?
Well, Napier, I've underestimated him the entire tournament. And got to give the edge to the Michigan State Spartans here.
From what? Well, I don't think we disagreed on any of these. Let me just make sure. This is what I've got,
okay.
And I think we're the same.
Okay.
Final Four. I think we agree on Florida over Dayton.
Yes.
I think we both picked Arizona over Wisconsin, right?
And I'm only sticking with that one because I originally picked it.
Right.
I almost want to say Wisconsin here, but I'm going to stick with Arizona.
Yeah. Taking Kentucky over Michigan, that's another game that has instant classic potential.
We just spoke with my nephew who's in Lexington. I'm going Kentucky Blue.
All right, so we're on that one, and we're clearly in agreement on Michigan State and Kentucky. So we're either going to be right together or wrong together. That ship is either going to sink or swim. There's not going to be any lifeboats like on the Titanic.
They got Michigan giving Michigan 2 points. You know, Michigan, Kentucky. Michigan.
Wait. Hold on.
So Michigan's the underdog.
Michigan who's favorite?
The underdog.
Who's the favorite?
Kentucky.
By 2. Okay, go ahead.
All right. And then we go to the East where we got Connecticut and Michigan State. Michigan State by 6. All right, we go to the West, and we got Wisconsin and Arizona. They're giving Wisconsin 2.5 points. Dayton, Florida. They're giving They won't give Florida double digits, but they're giving them 9.5.
Oh, there's a big surprise! That's an incredible... I think I'm gonna have a heart attack and die from not surprised!
All right, well, they better not be afraid if they want to advance to the Final Four. Perry has a couple of news briefs on some amateur athletes. Perry, take it away.
Well, right up the road in Lafayette, we have Alfred Payton was named the Lefty Drizel Defensive Player of the Year by CollegeInsider.com. Payton was selected as a finalist for the award. He's out of John Eric High. Well, he actually won the award. He's out of John Eric High School. He led the Sun Belt Conference in steals for the second consecutive year, recording 80 and increasing his school's record total to 197. He's 6'3". He finished second on the team in rebounds. He averaged 19.2 points per game.
Wow.
Danny Manning from the Miracles, the Kansas 1988 national champions. They won.
They beat.
They
beat. I think it was Seton Hall, right?
Maybe.
Seton Hall was definitely in that Final Four. I remember PJ Carlissimo was in there. I think the win was, or was it Michigan? It was one of those two. But I remember.
But Danny Manning has just been hired as the Wake Forest head coach. He's a native of Greensboro, North Carolina, and he's going home to be the head coach there. I can see the University of Kansas job in his future.
I'll tell you what, I can too, because he brought Tulsa out of the doldrums, really, and made them relevant. They were in the tournament this year.
That's exactly right.
And Wake Forest has always been good but not great. He has a chance to lift them up and have them competing with Duke and North Carolina and NC State.
Very tough conference.
Yeah, if he handles his business there, I could see, once Bill Self, has had enough and is ready to move on to, greener pastures.
Right.
That's Kansas and Danny Manning. That could be a great fit.
They love him there.
Oh, yeah.
And lastly, the Los Angeles Athletic Club has awarded the Wooden Award, which goes to the top college basketball player annually. And this year they have awarded that award to Creighton's Doug McDermott.
That boy can play some ball, man. He's a hustler.
Ball.
I like everything about him. I think his game is going to translate well to the next level, and that I think he'll probably be a perennial starter. I don't know if he has superstar written all over him, but he's a hustler and
Similar
he's long.
To a Kurt Heinrich.
Yeah, somebody of that ilk. Someone who's going to frustrate you on defense. I like his game. That dude can play some basketball, man.
He can.
So that will move us out of the amateurs and into where, or at least as far as the hardwood goes, and move us to where the men get paid, and that's in the NBA. We have 2 weeks remaining in the NBA's regular season, and there's been a flurry of activity going on in the National Basketball Association, not the least of which is the New York Knickerbockers, who clawed back from the dead, like Thriller, with their hand coming out of the ground after a catastrophic first half, really first two-thirds of the season, and at one point they were the 8th seeded team in the East. They're pretty much battling back and forth with the Atlanta Hawks as of this morning. They are one game back of Atlanta, but the momentum has clearly swung to the side of the Knicks. Now, Phil Jackson just got hired a couple of weeks ago, so I don't know how much influence he could have had, but maybe they know the big guys watching, or maybe some of that Zen karma's gone down there, but the Knicks have played much better basketball. The only thing is at times they've slipped back to the same old Knicks. By the way, 225-343-9927, 225-343-9927 if you'd like to get in on the conversation. Well, they're going to have a real test this weekend as they travel down to South Beach tomorrow to play the Miami Heat on national television. This is going to be the real test because the Heat can be sucker punched. The Minnesota Timberwolves pulled one out last night. I want to say it was overtime or double overtime. It was overtime. So the Timberwolves kind of caught the Heat off guard. The Heat have a tendency at times against teams with inferior records to kind of be dialed out a little bit and go through the motions and sometimes rest their starters. However, with this being on ABC and with New York being a realistic first-round playoff opponent and it being in the Big Apple, I don't think this is one where the Heat are going to dial out. I think they're going to dial in and really put it to the Knicks this weekend.
And they may, man. You know, it's like at this point in the season, you are who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the Zen Master coming in has a little temporary motivation.
Right.
Because, you know, hey, it's like any other job.
Right.
The new boss walks through the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of button up a little bit, you know, make sure you're there on time.
Right.
You know, do those things.
Well, Carmelo's been playing some defense, too. You notice that? Carmelo's usually very lackadaisical on defense. For you casual fans out there, Carmelo Anthony's probably one of the best, if not the best scorers of his time, but he's been criticized for kind of just not putting in his effort on his energy on the defensive end. I saw Carmelo just getting his body out there in his hands and pushing people in the lane. I mean, you'd have thought he was, you thought he was playing for his job or something like that.
But that's just it. When someone of the magnitude of a Phil Jackson
Right.
walks in as the head, then everyone is expendable.
That's right. That's right. You know, and I think it's going to be interesting to see where that project goes. I would love to see this team in 2 years. If Phillip has the effect that he's had on L.A. and Chicago and really anywhere he goes with his mindset for basketball, I'm sure he's going to have, much like Pat Riley, he's going to get a coach in his own image.
Right.
Like Pat Riley got Spoelstra, who has the Riley philosophy. I think Mike Woodson's fired. I think Phil Jackson's going to get somebody who does things the Phil Jackson way. It's going to be very interesting in the Eastern Conference.
It is. It's always good. We talked about this once before about Duke, but
Right.
we mentioned some NBA teams.
Right.
It's just good when these teams are good. It's good for the league. We mentioned the Boston Celtics, the Los Angeles Lakers.
Right.
Well, the New York Knicks are good for the NBA.
That's right. They're a legacy franchise in the
Yes.
biggest market, and I'll tell you when they're mixing it up. I mean, you know, like I go back to the old Bulls rivalries they had in the '90s, and you know some of the teams that Jeff Van Gundy coached. I mean, when those guys are contenders and to be taken seriously, the game is just more fun to watch. And kind of like I guess the modern version of the '90s Knicks are really those Indiana Pacers. And right now they're in a free fall. Right now they've lost the first seed in the East. I think they're really struggling to find that playoff identity that they need. If they don't get it together, this could set up a real opportunity for those Chicago Bulls to slip into third place and then bump Indiana in that second round. So they better get it together.
Well, you know, I think Miami's resting their players. I actually think that the Knicks can win this game against the Heat.
They could.
Come out victorious because those important television markets in the East
Right.
that does well for basketball.
Right,
ratings.
absolutely.
However,
They know they're being watched.
right. This other matchup that you just mentioned, who did you just mention here?
Let's see, I mentioned New York playing Miami. Then we have, I'm just talked about the Indiana Pacers kind
the
of
Pacers. If this team
free-falling.
they can't panic, man.
Right, and that's what it looks like they're doing.
They're panicking.
Yeah.
They're having all these team meetings, coaches
Right.
only meetings. You know, it's just, hey, it's that time of year. All you have to do is just continue doing what got you here. You
Right.
know, as the great coach Nick Saban would say, trust the process.
Or our friend Coach Nick Mitchell, who has also said that
Right.
over at Southern Lab. Trust the
Right.
process.
Trust the process.
So, you know, that is going to be, it's going down in the NBA. San Antonio Spurs had their 19-game winning streak snapped by the Oklahoma City Thunder on Thursday, and then Friday, OKC turned around and got it put to them by the Houston Rockets. So that Western Conference dynamic is going to be very interesting to see when they break it down to 7-game series.
Here's what's beautiful. Kevin Durant's the man.
Oh boy, he is on fire. He tied was it MJ's
Jordan's
record for, was it consecutive, was it 30 point? 25 point games?
25-point game.
So I mean, he's probably going to take the scoring title again. I think he's going to get his first ever MVP because here's the funny thing. Here's the thing. Writers just don't want to give out 3 straight MVP awards unless they have no choice. I remember back in 1993 when Charles Barkley won his MVP. Really, and I was 18 at the time, and I just kind of sat back and I said, if you look at it, it just seems like Michael Jordan still should be the MVP, but they don't want to give that award out 3 times when you have a viable, big personality right there. And that's what Kevin Durant is, and he's getting all the media attention this year. Honestly, LeBron, in my opinion, would get my vote for the MVP if you look what he's doing, but people are so used to LeBron, and they've won 2 straight titles, and they're kind of tired of LeBron taking home the MVP.
So wait a minute. Now, I mean, Kevin Durant's averaging 32 points a game.
Oh, he's kicking some butt, man. He's averaging, I have to have it right in front of me. He is averaging 32 points, and I want to say let's see. healthy number of assists and rebounds. I take it back. I did not have it in front of me.
That's okay. But so how can we justify LeBron?
LeBron, 27 points per game, so not too far behind. 7 rebounds per game, which you'd expect. 7 assists per game, which means he's handling 2 roles, and 2 steals per game. That's Chris Paul-like stuff when he's stealing the bucket. Durant, I don't think he's averaging 10 rebounds a game. He doesn't pass the basketball. Good defender, but not an interrupter. And lastly, you consider that LeBron has put this team on his back with Dwayne Wade being hurt so many times, and the team kind of going into those doldrums that the few repeat champions we've had have done. LeBron's game stands out a little bit more to me personally than Kevin Durant's game. But you look, either way, it's well deserved, and I think that Kevin Durant is in fact going to win the MVP award. So we have, though, speaking of Kevin Durant, on Wednesday, big matchup, Oklahoma City Thunder going to Staples Center to play the Los Angeles Clippers, who have been on fire. Now, they lost to Dallas on Thursday night. Going into that game, they had won 17 of 19 games, so now 17 of 20. But the Clippers are blazing red hot, and it sounds like some of you would like to get in on the conversation with us here on Louisiana All-American Sports, and we're always happy to have you at 225-343-9927. False alarm there. I know Perry's trying to dig up the numbers on Kevin Durant. What we're going to do, though, real quick, is we want to bring you into some of the lighter side of sports. We're going to come back to Kevin Durant in just a moment and see where that stat line is for KD. By the way, just a quick mention of his teammate, Russell Westbrook, has really recovered after coming back off of those nagging injuries. 21.7 assists per game, 6 rebounds per game. That from the point guard position, that's pretty impressive. I think OKC is, in my opinion, the team to beat in the West, but they are 3.5 back of the San Antonio Spurs. But real quick on the lighter side of sports, we have bad boys in every narrative, in every story, and that, of course, goes in sports as well as life. As we have some dudes who were pretty bad boys in the last couple of days, breaking the law. Oh, yeah, breaking the law. Shame on you there. University of Missouri basketball player James Zach Price, age 20. Kids are always going to get into trouble. Kids are going to be kids. But this kid found a way to double up, and not in a good way. James Price of the Missouri Tigers was arrested twice in 24 hours. It's actually quite remarkable. Price was arrested at 3:05 p.m. on April the 3rd. For second-degree domestic assault. I hit the call button. And after he had just been arrested not that far before for second-degree assault. Now, the first charge was second-degree domestic assault and then, quote-unquote, second-degree assault. So this dude has gotten arrested 2 times in 24 hours. Everybody makes mistakes, but, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Jim, what were you thinking? Twice in 24 hours. Oh, boy, somebody's got to get to that young man. Of the Minnesota Timberwolves, I got 2 more, and we'll jump to our caller on the line. Dante Cunningham of the Minnesota Timberwolves was arrested for domestic violence on Thursday. The police said he attacked a female around 4 a.m. This is according to TMZ Sports. It was a woman who said he attacked her at her home and then left the scene. Now, the police arrived. The accuser did not require any medical treatment for injuries, but they arrested Dante Cunningham nonetheless. So when I hear about a woman calling the law on a guy who quote-unquote attacked her but there are no injuries, it sounds like Mr. Cunningham and his female friend had a difference of opinion, and, well, who that called the police? That lady called the police on Mr. Cunningham. And finally, this is a cute one. Zach Sims, 19-year-old first baseman, University of Georgia, was pulled over for a DUI stop, and when he was arrested, he asked the police officer to play country music on his way to jail. The arresting officer actually obliged, played it, and he said Sims sang along with the radio. That's Zach Sims, sang along with the radio during the entire transport. So maybe if baseball doesn't work out, he can say, take this job and shove it. So we have a caller on the line, Perry?
We do have a caller on the line, man. Those Kevin Durant stats real quick, though. 39 points, 9 rebounds.
9 rebounds.
7 assists with 2 steals. We've got Josh on the line, man.
Yeah. Josh Innes from WIP in Philadelphia?
Yes.
Oh, wow. This is a pleasant surprise. I think I'm going to have a heart attack and die from that surprise, really. Full disclosure, Josh Innes is a close personal friend of mine, very successful in the radio business. It's funny I mentioned the Johnny Paycheck because he was actually the one who delivered the take Matt Schaub and cut him. This little fine dandy right here is courtesy to the gentleman you're about to hear on the line.
Take Matt Schaub and cut him. He ain't a welcome here no more. He threw another pick. Now there goes the season we were hoping for.
If you remember that from the regular season. Josh, good morning. How are you today? Oh, it's another beautiful day in the capital city. Appreciate you calling in this morning. I asked Josh if he could take a break from his busy schedule to give us a call and discuss the DeSean Jackson situation, which has been really one of the hotter and more sensational stories in sports media, really, in the NFL. Josh is, of course, with WIP. Is that the flagship station of the Eagles, Josh?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's got the lowdown on what's going on.
Talk to us.
Josh, I guess give us the elevator summary of the climate in Philadelphia, the reaction. What in the world of Sam Hill is going on up there in Philly?
From what it sounds like, and there have been varying stories, but a story that just came out yesterday of anonymous players, which I don't like. I don't like when people speak out and don't put their name on it. But a couple of anonymous players said that they're glad that DeSean Jackson's gone because he's a cancer in the locker room, whatever. I buy that, but I also think they made a mistake letting him go. And then, of course, there's also the gang story, which, is what it is. I think it came out at a horrible time because it made it seem like the Eagles dumped him because of this alleged gang stuff, which I don't think they did. But now it's caused a mini race war here in Philadelphia because people will bring up that Riley Cooper said the N-word and kept his job. And that's even Chris Rock. Chris Rock said this on Twitter, like Chris Rock knows anything about anything going on with the Eagles coach. So Riley Cooper says the N-word and gets a raise, and DeSean Jackson, they think he's in a gang, and then he, gets cut. That's not what it's about. It didn't get cut because he's allegedly in a gang. The Eagles have done a lot of this stuff since Andy Reid was there,
right.
And a lot of his issues since Andy Reid was there. But it's a convenient argument for a lot of people to say, you keep the bigot and you let this guy go. The reality is DeSean Jackson's the headache.
But Josh, that would be new information to the public about the locker room situation. However, we just did a skit on this very show regarding Riley Cooper and that situation. And of any business, which the Philadelphia Eagles are a business, you have to be conscious of your public perception. And it seems to the layman who doesn't have the inside information about what's going on in the locker room that business decision was not very good for publicity.
Well, we talking about the Riley Cooper thing or the DeSean Jackson
The two combined.
Well, you say that the Riley Cooper thing's not very popular, but they went 10-6, and I didn't see an empty seat at the stadium last year.
Yeah,
I didn't see them not buying tickets, and I don't see the teammates every day saying the guy's a scumbag either. So you say it's a bad business decision, but a bad business decision only exists if business ends up going poor, which it hasn't.
Absolutely, and that remains to be seen. If they go 10-6 and win the NFC East, then it's not a bad business decision because football fans are crazy and they're going to sit in that stadium anyway in that freezing cold. I don't know how you guys do it in Philadelphia, but anyway, so then it's not a bad decision if they win. However, last year in the dynamic, because you had the great Michael Vick, who African-American fans love, they tolerated the Cooper Riley situation. Now,
you know what I would say to that? You say they tolerated Riley Cooper. I could say that the Eagles gave $100 million to a dog killer. So, I mean, there's different ways that people tolerate things.
And we've heard that side of the argument. But there's also a large contingency of people out there that support Michael Vick, say that he's done his time, served society, let that go.
And I agree. But can you say the same thing about Riley Cooper, who didn't even commit a crime?
Yeah.
Well, the Riley Cooper, the lack of the NFL stepping up is my issue with that. And then it's awfully funny that they came back and changed the rules on the field regarding those terms this year in the off season. That's amazing.
Well, there's no definitive word that they're doing that yet, but I think it would be asinine if they did.
Yeah,
to me, that would be a rule that would be penalizing black players because
regardless of who it penalizes, there should be some decorum on that field, and we can't just allow. It's already savage enough to allow inflammatory language like that to continue when you have an avenue to curb it. Is the intelligent thing to do.
Perry, I would counter. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this really quick. Are you're both Saints fans? I take it, right? I know you are, Eric.
Right.
You're Saints fans. Let's say it's an NFC Championship game. You got a shot to go to a Super Bowl. Flag comes down with 2 minutes to go. You're up by 3. You just made a big third down stop. It's fourth down. You're about to win it. And there's a 15-yard penalty because a ref thinks he heard a black player, say an N-word to another black player, which in my arguments I've had with people, I've learned that for the most part, a black guy can say the N-word to another black guy because of the AER thing. Let's say the game then changes on that penalty. Are you thinking the same thing about the decorum on the field?
Oh, Josh, I mean, I agree with your take on the penalty being the idea of the penalty being ridiculous. I'd be fuming. I was going to counter to Perry. You know, it's a war out there, and these are pros. I would think that none of these guys are choir boys. Perry?
Well, but you still want some avenues in to where things don't escalate to become personal. It is just a sport. And to answer your question, Josh, I really wouldn't care. What I would care about is this. I would care about a referee making a decision on something that he thinks he saw or heard. I don't want him to throw that flag unless he knows without a shadow of a doubt what took place. So regardless whether it's that infraction, a pass interference, regardless of the infraction, I want him to be certain that he knows what took place.
We have about 70 seconds remaining. Josh, could you tell us what the football implications of this might be? And more importantly, Chip, I mean, I think when we peel back all the sensational layers, the gangs and race and all that, ultimately is Chip Kelly and DeSean Jackson were oil and water. It wasn't going to work. Football-wise, what can Eagles fan, what's this mean going forward?
Well, what's funny is they had just gotten Darren Sproles, so people thought that they were going to have, an even more explosive offense than they already had. And reality is you lose a 1,300-yard receiver, so that doesn't make you better.
Right.
So now you would think they've got to go draft early, but let's say they go draft early for wide receiver. The defense still isn't very good. As you know, they got your cast off and Malcolm Jenkins. Instead of going out and signing Jarris Murray, they had a ton of money to spend. They didn't spend that money. They went out and got basically a second or third level safety in Malcolm Jenkins.
Yeah.
They got a bunch of Band-Aid fixes instead of spending the money on an elite defensive player. Fortunately for them, though, they play in what looks like an awful division. The Redskins are terrible. The Cowboys are always 8-8. And I think the Giants are going to be better than 7-9 this year, but 10-6, they win that division again. But they may not be 10-6. They got a much tougher schedule this year. Better defenses they've got to face.
100% agree. Josh, we are literally at 12 o'clock noon on our clock, so we've got to run.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you so much for calling, man.
Really appreciate that interesting dialogue.
Big help. Thank you so much, brother. All right, man. That was Josh Innes of WIP Radio in Philadelphia. AM 940. We have run out of time today. And as we always say right around this time,
ADT, JNS, love you.
Have a good afternoon.